So I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I couldn't come up with a intro for this video, but hopefully you clicked because of the thumbnail, and I figured this would be a pretty good distraction too. Stick around. We're going to talk about outside the waistband holsters. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is John Collins. I'm the owner of Risen Holster Co. And today we are talking about outside the waistband holsters. Specifically, we're going to talk about the 5 things that we want to keep in mind when we are selecting our outside the waistband holster so that we can make sure that it's going to fit our needs. All right, so outside the waistband holsters, they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they range anywhere from something like our operator outside the waistband holster, which is a great option if you're going to carry this like with an EDC scenario. Maybe throw it underneath of a jacket, or maybe even throw it underneath your suit jacket at church. You be that guy that's protecting all those people while they're worshiping the Lord. Or maybe you want to go all the way full LARPing mode like you saw earlier with the Warrior Level 2. This is a great option for battle belts or for people that are working in scenarios where they want that extra level of retention to make sure that that gun does not come out when it's not supposed to. Maybe you fall somewhere in between all of that, want something like our standard Warrior. This is just going to have an adaptable plate on the back that's going to allow you to throw in an attachment, throw it on your belt, take it to the range or wherever you're going to use it. We have something that kind of fits all the needs there, right? But the biggest thing we want to look at, our number 1 point on our list of our 5 things to think about when we're buying an outside the waistband holster, is retention. Now, retention is going to mean how well does this thing stay in? And in an outside the waistband holster, that's pretty stinking important. It's not like an inside the waistband holster where our body and our belt and all our clothes are kind of aiding in keeping that holster where it's supposed to be and keeping the gun in the holster. Now we're sticking this on the outside of the waistband, and we are relying on the structure and the build of this holster to make sure that gun does not go where it's not supposed to. So in talking about that, we're going to specifically talk about the 3 levels of retention that are out there. Level 1 retention is going to be about 95% of what you see on the market, and that is just going to be friction. Now, this is going to be the same whether you're going with a nylon, a leather, or a Kydex holster. Obviously, certain materials are just going to work better than others, but what we're looking at, take our Warrior here, for instance, is the friction that's being applied to this firearm to hold it in place. You can see here the indentation around the inside of this trigger guard. That does not increase the level of retention from level 1 to 2. All that does is put that friction in a specific area that we want it. So I can shake this thing upside down. I ain't got to worry about it coming out, but I can break that retention and break that friction retention in that specific case and get this firearm out of here. Leather holsters, they also do this decently well. They're able to form around the firearm pretty well. They're able to get inside of that trigger guard and increase that level of friction around that area that we want it. The problem that I seem to find with leather holsters is that they kind of do degrade over time, and you can kind of lose that retention the more that holster is used and the more that it ages. That's why we prefer something like Kydex, because Kydex is formed to a specific shape and it's going to hold that shape indefinitely. So from level 1 retention, the next step up, obviously, we're going to go to level 2 retention. Now, what does that mean? That means we are going to be taking the base holster like we would have here, and we are going to be adding another mechanism that needs to be defeated in order to draw our firearm. In this case, we're going to look at our Warrior level 2 here. Now, we have the same base holster that our standard Warrior is, but now we've added a hood to the top of it. This means that even if I do break the retention of that holster, the hood's still going to catch the firearm and prevent it from coming out. That means I have to defeat level 1 and level 2 in order to draw my firearm. Pretty self-explanatory, but it is something that we definitely want to look at and how it is applied in order to gain level 2 retention. There are other companies out there that gain their second level of retention by a mechanism that locks onto the locking block of your slide. That way that button has to be depressed, and then we break the friction of the holster in order to draw the firearm. Still considered level 2. Level 3 retention. Now, we don't do level 3 here at Risen Holster Co. yet. That is something that we tend to kind of refer customers off about, but it's the exact same process of adding a third mechanism in place that needs to be defeated in order to defeat the holster and get the firearm. Now, something like a Safariland holster, they have hoods and they have a locking block mechanism plus the friction applied to the firearm from the holster, and that will be your 3 levels of retention. If that's something you're specifically in the market for, then I definitely would suggest that you look out at some of the more reputable companies that make level 3 holsters. We do level 1, we do level 2 here pretty stinking good, I think, but level 3 is something that we haven't gotten to yet. There's a lot of patents, a lot of R&D, and that is something where instead of trying to make something that is considered level 3, which we could do, we would rather just send you guys somewhere where you're going to get a better product in the end. All right, so moving on from our retention point, now we're going to get on to point number 2, which is our adjustability and adaptability of a holster. It's also something that we want to think about, very, very important when we're about to buy a holster. I don't want to have to buy a holster for all these different scenarios. Maybe I can buy one holster that I can adapt to a bunch of different cases. Take, for instance, something like our Warrior outside the waistband. So this is a pretty simple one, just has the paddle attached to the back of it. This is great for throwing on my belt. I can go to the range with this. I can take this outside and kind of walk around as I'm working or whatever, and it just fits a need there, right? It's super simple and super easy to use, but all of our Warrior holsters come with a cool adaptable mounting plate on the back of them so that I can take this off and maybe I can upgrade to something like a QLS fork like you see here. Now, I use these quite a bit because I'm out at the range and I'm shooting these guns, testing these holsters out and seeing what works and doesn't work, making adjustments as I need to. So instead of having to go through a whole boatload of different stuff when I have my belt on, I can just take this QLS fork and snap it in place on my current belt and just kind of go through all the motions of that. Works great for me, but maybe it's not something that's for everybody, right? Moving on from there, you can even adapt all the way up to something like this drop rig that we have on the battle belt here. Now this attaches on and it allows me to get the holster dropped down a little bit more. This is great for people who are looking for a little bit lower of a draw height, so that way they have a little bit more movement in their arm. Maybe you're wearing this with a plate carrier or a chest rig or something like that, so it kind of gets it out of the way of all that extra material that might be up top there. It's a great option for being able to, yet again, take this holster and adapt it out to something else. Now, our Warrior Level 2 and our Warrior Level 1 here, our standard Warrior, they come with that same adaptable plate on the back of it that allows you to put pretty much any attachment on the back that you can think of. It works with all the Safariland stuff, all the G-Code or all the Blade Tech, and pretty much all of those different companies, brands of paddles or anything like that. So you buy a holster and then you have the ability to adapt with it. Maybe you're a brand new shooter, you get the paddle, and then you decide down the road you want a battle belt. Well, take that same holster, just throw the attachment on it, and you're good to go. Adaptability and adjustability can also look something like our operator outside the waistband and its adjustable right height. So I'm going to wear this in a scenario, like I said earlier, maybe underneath of a suit jacket or something like that. Being able to take these belt clips loose and adjust the height of them, being able to kind of put a little extra cant or a little less cant in this holster as needed to make sure it fits my attire. That's a great thing to have so that I don't buy this and it doesn't work and then I'm just stuck with it and doesn't fit how I need it to fit. Well, I can adjust this to make it work much, much better depending on what I'm wearing. Now, we talked about retention, we've talked about the adjustability and adaptability. Third on the list we're going to talk about is durability. Now, this is really, really important, especially if you're getting into more of like the battle belt style use case of these holsters. We want something that's extremely robust and that's going to hold up to getting abused quite a bit. Now, most of our holsters on the market in Kydex are going to be a .080 Kydex. That's kind of just the industry standard. If you go online, you buy a holster, that's most likely what you're getting. That's what our standard Warrior base model is made out of, although we can upgrade it both in the standard Warrior and in the Warrior Level 2 to the 0.125 inch thick Kydex. Now that stuff is pretty stinking thick. It's going to add the holster, add a lot of rigidity to the holster. It's going to add a lot of durability to the holster, and it's going to add a lot of extra protection to the firearm that is inside of the holster. This is a great option if you are going to be putting this on a battle belt and running around. You have the possibility of falling. It's also great for competition holsters. We can even do dual layers of Kydex that come out to roughly that same thickness and give that holster a lot of durability and rigidity so that we, one, get better draws, but two, if we were to fall down on top of this thing, our gun is going to be protected inside and we don't have to worry about the holster breaking. Next point on our list that's something to consider and think about is the comfort and ergonomics of your holster. Now, on something like our Warrior Level 2 or our standard Warriors that you're wearing outside the waistband in a more specifically, overt kind of scenario, the comfort and the ergonomics aren't going to be as big of an issue. Now, comfort in those specific areas may look like making sure that the holster is got clearance around the trigger guard, making sure that these edges that you're going to come in contact with when drawing the firearm are smooth. They're not scratching you. They're not causing any kind of blisters or anything like that. We do just want to grab this firearm and not be making a lot of contact with the holster. So comfort can come in scenarios like that. But what we're more talking about is something similar to like the operator and how it's going to be conformed to your body. You can see the curve that's built into it here. We'll talk about choosing the correct sweat shield depending on what you're wearing behind this, because this sweat shield will come in contact with your body while you're wearing this holster. That is something that we want to consider when we're purchasing a holster like this, is what kind of ergonomics and what kind of comfort level is it going to give me while I'm wearing it. This is also why this holster is canted, similar to our inside the waistband holsters with those cantable belt clips to kind of help tuck that grip into the side of our body. These operators come canted so that this same grip tucks into the side of my body here. It's going to allow my jacket or whatever I am wearing over top of it to do a better job of concealing the firearm underneath. All right, and now we are on to number 5, the last point on our list, and that is the aesthetics of a holster. Now, this is not something you would typically probably think about when you're selecting a holster. Maybe you're just getting this to hold your firearm and you just want this thing to do its job. I don't really care what it looks like, but there are specific cases where you probably want this thing to look a certain way. In something like this case here with my really nice multicam battle belt here, I have got a jet black holster on it. Now, might not be a big deal depending on where I'm wearing this, but if you are somebody that needs to wear this for a work scenario, you may not want that to stand out quite so much. Maybe I do want to get this holster in multicam so that it blends into my attire a little bit better. Not just for the aesthetic appeal of having all matching stuff, but maybe I actually want this thing to be camouflaged. Something to think about. Maybe something like this operator here, where it's got this kind of faux leather style of kydex on top of it. Instead of having it something where it's just going to stand out the second my jacket comes across, maybe if just a little tiny bit of this holster appears and it kind of tends to blend in with the belt that I'm wearing, it's going to give it a little bit of camouflage. It's going to look nicer and stand out less than what a different kind of color would in that scenario. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, us guys just want our stuff to kind of look a little cool, right? So outside the waistband holsters are going to be seen, whether you're at the range, whether you're shooting with your buddies, or whether you're just showing off your collection. Having something flashy like black multicam, or again, this kind of faux leather look, it's just a cool way to be able to show off our nice holsters and our nice firearms that we're putting inside of them. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with that, right? So I hope this was a helpful bunch of information to you guys for how to think about buying your next holster, what things we should be thinking about when buying it so that we get a lot of value for our purchase. I hope it also helps with selecting the specific holster style that you're looking for and making sure that it's going to fit the need that you're buying this holster for. If you have any questions at all about any of the stuff that you've seen today, or questions about any of the things that we talked about, please feel free to reach out or comment on this video below. If you want to reach out through our website, we have a contact us page. You can find it there, or you can also just email us directly at info@risenholsterco.com. Again, if you don't want to do that, just comment below in the video. I do keep an eye on it for a decent while and make sure I try to answer all the comments as they come through. Thank you again for the support, everybody that's been jumping on board with us and subscribing. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. It's really helping us out as we're growing. Also, please like this so it just kind of gets pushed out to more and more people. And we're going to continue to crank out these videos to you guys. Got a boatload of ideas and boatload of things that I think would be really helpful for you guys as you are going through your journey of concealed carry or outside the waistband carry, or all these different scenarios, tips for just going about your life with a firearm. And I thank you again for everybody that tuned in, and I will see you on the next one. God bless. I need some friends.